Hey, what's happening, guys? Good morning, everybody. You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels. Today is Monday, February 20th, 2023. We got kind of another one of these wrap-up videos. Today, 2023 is already flying by. It's hard to believe we're almost already through February. Not a super exciting news day today, but still nonetheless plenty of things to discuss. Before we get into today's video, shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Express VPN. If you guys don't have a VPN, you may want to consider getting one. Adds a bit of privacy when you're browsing on public Wi-Fi networks. You can hide your search history from your employer, your school, whoever is in control of your Wi-Fi network. If you want to watch content that is not available in your country, you can do that with a VPN. And for somebody like me who does local SEO for businesses and just SEO in general, and I manage affiliate programs, being able to log in from different locations. So if I have affiliates committing affiliate fraud but blocking out my area from, say, Google ads or Bing ads or Facebook ads, I can see that by logging in from other areas. Also, if I'm doing local SEO for a company in New York, I can actually see what search results are looking like if I was in New York. So right now, I believe they're offering 33% off if you sign up for a year at a time. Link in the description box below. Without further ado, let's hop into today's video. I got a YouTube channel recommendation for you guys, a movie recommendation. But before we get into that, let's take a look at where the crypto markets are. Obviously, I did a weekend video that I posted yesterday, so we kind of covered how the stock market and markets closed up on Friday. Just looking at the crypto charts, looking at the past 24 hours, not a whole lot of movement. Most coins up maybe 0.25%, 0.5%. On the 7-day, most top coins are doing pretty well. On the 7-day, Bitcoin up 14.75%, Ethereum up 15%, BNB lagging a little bit behind, but still up 8.9%, XRP up 7%, Cardano has been on a tear, Cardano up 15%, Polygon up 27%, Solana up 29%. Just talking about some, I don't know about you guys, I don't follow crypto as closely as I used to, so you may have no idea where Bitcoin's sitting. Bitcoin currently sitting at 24,845, Ethereum 1709, BNB $317, and Cardano at 40 cents. YouTube channel recommendation for you guys today. There is a channel called Amagansett Press. If you type in AMAG, he should be the first thing to pop up. What he is, he's one of these First Amendment auditors. And these First Amendment auditor channels, honestly, a lot of them are obnoxious, a lot of them are rude. They kind of go out in public looking to kind of stir up issues. I don't find that to be the case with Amagansett Press, but his videos still are entertaining, and it kind of reminds me of, if you guys remember back around the 2010s, there was a YouTube channel. The guy went by the name of Surveillance Cameraman, and he would go out in public and just walk around and film people, and people would get incredibly upset that he was filming people. Now, obviously, since 2010, the prevalence of cameras anywhere and everywhere you go has grown substantially, right? Like everywhere you go, you're filmed. I forget the stat, but how many cameras you appear on per day? It's probably in the hundreds, if not in the thousands. And so when people would get upset with him, he would say things, he would normally not talk, which would make the whole interaction even weirder. If you guys have never seen the Surveillance Cameraman videos, I highly suggest going on YouTube. You can probably find some old ones re-uploaded. I think he was eventually kicked off of YouTube. But he would basically go around in public and film people. People would get upset. And on the rare occurrence he did talk, he would tell people, like, there's cameras everywhere. Why do you think that I'm filming? And obviously people don't like being filmed. They don't like their privacy being invaded. But when there's a camera on a street light or a camera on a building, there's nobody to really lash out at in the same way as when a guy is actually holding the camera. So what this Amagansett Press does, he and his son both have YouTube channels. His son's YouTube channel is called The Watchman. His background, he was a photographer and videographer. So he and his son travel around the country. They go film publicly in different locations, make videos about cities. And while they're out filming, sometimes they have good interactions with people, and other times people will come out of their business and be like, hey, what the hell are you filming for? You can't film. My insurance company won't let you film. It's illegal for you to film. And he's basically just trying to make the point, he's trying to educate people on the First Amendment and kind of make the point that if you're out in public, you have a right to film anything that you can see with your own eyes, and people get upset with him. Sometimes the police will show up, and oftentimes he winds up having to kind of educate the police. Now, again, in this First Amendment auditor community, there's a lot of really obnoxious guys who go out looking for issues, looking for trouble, are rude to people, swear at people. Not the case with the Amagansett Press. Seems like a nice dude, and it just kind of makes funny videos. So I would highly recommend checking out his video. And then a movie recommendation for you guys. This is an old movie. A lot of you guys have probably seen it, but if you haven't, man, I've haven't seen it in forever. The movie Heat, Al Pacino, Val Kilmer, Robert De Niro. The movie is packed full of stars. And honestly, it's probably, having watched it again, even for it being the 80s or 90s whenever it was made, probably one of the best bank robbery movies of all time. I think one of my favorite bank robbery movies, a more modern one, is the movie Den of Thieves. I know 50 Cent's in that one. Check that one out if you haven't seen it as well. But I hadn't seen Heat in forever. Saw it came on, I want to say it's on Hulu, so check that out over the weekend, and forgot how good that one was. Let's get into today's news. So YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki wound up stepping down. We talked about that in a video the other day. She'd been with Google for, I think, 24 years. She'd been in that position running YouTube for the past 9 years. A lot of people, myself included, think that YouTube has kind of gone downhill substantially since she's been on board. Obviously, she did bring a lot more advertising to YouTube, which brings a lot of money into YouTube. And in a way, it also kind of helps businesses, right? Like a lot of businesses like advertising on YouTube. But overall, just the entire YouTube experience has kind of gone downhill. I'm not really going to get into that. We talked about it in a video the other day. But I had kind of a tinfoil hat idea. Is it a coincidence that Susan Wojcicki is stepping down right around the time that a lot of social media companies are facing backlash over the censorship that they've done over the past couple of years? We had the Twitter files. We've learned that the FBI had people working at Twitter. Twitter had people working at the FBI. A lot of the information we were getting was being censored by the government. The government was getting involved in shutting down free speech. Historically, a lot of people said, they're private companies. They can do what they want. Well, when private companies and the government are in bed together and the government is basically deciding who to censor, that seems like a violation of free speech to me. But it seems interesting, the timing of her stepping down right when all the major social media platforms are facing backlash for all the censorship and pushing of misinformation they did over the past couple of years. I thought this was kind of interesting, just kind of a random note here. I've noticed a lot of people online, Twitter, Reddit, etc., are looking back to 2008, trying to make comparisons between today and 2008. Obviously, very different situations. The world was a very different place. But I had kind of an idea that, I had just kind of a thought that this will be the first recession or the first crash to where we have social media and 24/7 internet access. Obviously, 2008, we had the housing crash, we had the economy collapse. And back then, we did have a 24-hour news cycle, right? You had CNN and Fox News and all these news stations 24/7. Obviously, most of us were on the internet at that point, but we didn't have smartphones. Think about back to 2008. The iPhone was, 2 or 3 years old. Most people didn't have smartphones. Twitter was a couple years old. YouTube was a year or two old, but nobody really went on YouTube. Facebook, I don't know if Facebook had opened up to everybody. Facebook may have even only been for people with .edu email addresses back then. But back, and I think this is the case with a lot of kind of big things that happen in the world, whether it be wars or whatever else, is we're dealing with these situations for the first time in history where everybody has a phone in their pocket, where everybody can share their opinion out to everybody else. Again, even though we had 24/7 news coverage back during the Great Recession, we didn't have social media. And I think it'll be interesting, whether you believe we're in a recession right now or that we're going to be heading into one, it'll be interesting to see what things look like when everybody is able to kind of blast their voice and blast their opinion out to everybody. I think it'll also be interesting to see, will the government censor or push certain agendas on social media about how bad the economy is, about how bad the recession is. We already kind of see it, right? Like we had a flurry of articles about how mortgage rates are dropping, mortgage demand is surging. Mortgage rates have dropped for 4 weeks in a row, 5 weeks in a row, 6 weeks in a row. But now that mortgage rates are climbing back up, we don't necessarily see this flurry of articles about how mortgage rates are rising. And so there's kind of this message being pushed that the economy isn't as bad as some people make it out to be. And I think I've talked about this before, but there was a if you have Hulu, MTV True Life has old episodes of MTV True Life on there. That used to be a pretty good show. But there was one episode about the Great Recession, and it was kind of about a lot of young people who were in high-paying jobs, kind of prestigious jobs in their early 20s at a young age. And then the recession hit, and they went from making six figures back in the early 2000s, which was a ton of money, to having to work retail, to get 2 and 3 jobs. A lot of these people wound up losing their apartments. If you don't remember what 2008 was like, it was just kind of, it kind of brings you back to then, or if you weren't even alive, it gives you a picture of what things were actually like back then. I thought this was interesting. So Facebook's parent company, Meta, is rolling out a paid verification subscription called Meta Verified for user profiles. Co-founder Mark Zuckerberg said on February 19th. Isn't it funny how everybody made fun of Elon Musk for doing this, and now Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg are copying it? A few details about this. Zuckerberg said the subscription service will let users verify their account with a government ID to receive a blue badge along with additional impersonation protection against their accounts that are claiming to the user and to get direct access to customer support. The subscription service is available for a fee of $11.99 per month, so I think that's even more than Twitter on the web, and $14.99 per month on iOS. The higher subscription fee on iOS is likely to offset the 30% commission fee levied by Apple on subscriptions. Meta verified there will initially be a rollout to Australia and New Zealand this week, with expansion to more countries shortly after. The social media giant's CEO Mark Zuckerberg has earlier said it was planning to launch several new products that would empower creators to be way more productive and creative, while cautioning about the cost associated with supporting the technology for a larger user base. So that one was kind of interesting. And you know what's kind of funny? Elon's trying to put through like a Twitter payments thing. Elon wants Twitter to be kind of an overreaching all things of the internet social media platform that everybody's going to have. And it's kind of funny, you have a lot of these social media platforms that haven't really done a lot of innovation or a lot of new stuff in the past couple of years, who I think are maybe feeling the heat from Twitter and deciding, we better start, improving our platforms, rolling out more features, etc. I'm not going to get too deep into this, but I see more and more YouTubers going out to home builder sites and communities under development and looking at how many homes have sold, how many homes have not sold, looking to see whether people are touring these homes. We're hearing homeowners are leaving, we're hearing home builders are leaving canceled deals on the books to make things look not as bad. The channel, The Real Estate Mindset, has been doing a lot of this. He's been traveling around the country. He's been looking at homes in like the $300,000 range, and he's finding most of these homes don't have contracts. There's nobody really out looking at them. And I saw other YouTubers going around looking at homes in the $900,000 range. It's kind of crazy. A lot of these homes starting at $900,000, million-dollar homes, multi-million-dollar homes, have super tiny lots. They're right on top of their neighbors. The backyards aren't even big enough to put a pool in the backyard, and these homes are selling for $1 million. I thought this was kind of interesting. Amazon CEO Andy Jassy wants employees back into the office 3 days a week. And before we kind of get into this story, probably within the last 6 weeks, maybe 2 months, he actually came out and said, we have no plans on bringing people back into the office. But now it looks like he is bringing people back into the office 3 days a week. Let's see. Here's what he said. Here's what we've learned. Talks about getting people back into unused, so he talks about getting people back into unused real estate and supporting local businesses, local restaurants, local coffee shops around their headquarters. We recently learned that Manhattan's losing at like $12 billion a year from people working at home. Here are Andy Jassy's comments. He says, it's easier to learn, model, practice, and strengthen our culture when we're in the office together, most of the time and surrounded by our colleagues. It's especially true for new people. We've hired a lot of new people during the Mexican Beer Cough, but it's also true for people with tenure at Amazon. When you're in person, people tend to be more engaged, observant, and attuned to what's happening in meetings and cultural clues being communicated. For those unsure about why something happened or somebody reacted a certain way, it's easier to ask ad hoc questions on the way to lunch, in the elevator, or the hallway, whereas when you're at home, you're less likely to do so. It's also easier for leaders to teach when they have more people in a room at a time, can better assess whether the team is digesting the information as intended, and if not, how they need to adjust their communication. Of course, there will be plenty of meetings that will have significant virtual participation, but having more in-person interactions help people absorb the culture better. Our culture has been one of the most critical parts of our success in the first 27 years, and I expect it will be in our next 27 as well. Strengthening it further is a top priority for the S team and me. He also went on to say, I'm not going to read all this, but he also went on to say collaborating and inventing is easier. Learning from one another is easier. Teams tend to be better connected to one another when they see each other in person more frequently. There's something about being face-to-face with somebody, looking them in the eye and seeing you're fully immersed in whatever you're discussing that bonds people together. Teams tend to find ways to work through hard and complex trade-offs faster when they get together and map it out in a room. One weird thing I saw, so in comments on articles like this, I see a lot of people, saying that they don't want to go back to the office because they're worried about being sick, about getting sick, either being on public transportation or being in the office. You know what's weird? Prior to the Mexican beer cough, were people fearful about going out in public? Were people fearful about getting sick? I mean, at this point, the Mexican beer cough is nothing more than the common cold. Yet we have people who are still terrorized about getting sick, and I think maybe this past 3 years has forever changed people's I guess level of sanity and state of mind. So last week we've been talking a lot about that train derailment in Ohio. Pretty much all the rivers on the eastern half of the country have been poisoned. Cincinnati has stopped getting their water from the Ohio River, even though the governor is saying everything is fine. And apparently the city will switch to using water reserves. I'm not really sure what the plan is when they run out of reserves. I think this one came from the Hedge. This one came from either the Hedge or a tweet, but it said everything is fine. And it said household debt hit a record 16.9 trillion. Credit card debt hit a record 686 trillion. Mortgages hit a record 11.9 trillion. Auto loans hit a record 1.6 trillion. Student loans hit a record 1.6 trillion. And one thing you got to keep in mind, this is all with record low unemployment. What happens once unemployment starts taking up? What's going to happen to these people who are in debt? I got a lot of notes that I'm probably going to cut out of here. So let me see here. Okay, so the average down payment on a house today is pretty low. You only have people putting down 3.5% for FHA, even 5% for traditional. And honestly, you can't blame people, right? Like the age-old idea is put 20% down on a down payment. That's what Dave Ramsey would tell you to do. But when interest rates are at 2 or 3%, it made very little sense to put more money down on a home. You may as well put as little money down as possible and take as much time to pay off that loan, because that money is almost free, and you can almost certainly earn more money either investing in yourself, investing in a business, even putting it into the markets. So it didn't really make a lot of sense to put a lot of money down. But when most people don't have much skin in the game, we've talked about in a lot of these recent videos how people are they bought a house and they bought a house in San Francisco or Seattle, and they realize that now, just a couple months after they bought, houses are selling for $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 less than they paid for their home. You already see some of these people thinking about walking away. And when you have no skin in the game and your house is worth $500,000 less than you bought it for, will these people wind up walking away? You're starting to see mortgage lenders and realtors trying to lure people into buying homes with the idea of buy now, refi later. What happens if these high rates stick around for a while? Anybody who is doing this is taking a huge risk. I think it's almost certain that we're going to see mortgage rates tip over 7%. And as we head into summer, I wouldn't be shocked to see mortgage rates tip over 10%. The average person in the U.S. has around $96,000 in debt. And here's kind of a scary stat. Most major cities' pensions, for every dollar they're supposed to have put away, they really only have 45 to 50 cents put away. I know Illinois is one of these states with one of the biggest pension problems. And I think people are going to find themselves in a situation where they thought they had a pension to count on, and they're only going to get 80% of that pension. They're only going to get 50% of that pension. Or maybe that pension won't even be around for them at all. I saw Joe Biden had made news, I think it was over the weekend or late last week. He was talking about how, we stand with Ukraine, we're here till the end, we're going to help rebuild Ukraine, and we're going to pay the Ukrainian people's pensions so that they don't have to worry about where their money is going to be coming from. Think about this. Our Social Security system is going to crumble by the year 2034. We have Americans who are being bankrupted by healthcare issues. We have Americans who don't have enough money to retire. We have the military telling military members, 25% of military members are food insecure, meaning they don't have enough money to put food on the table. And we have the government telling them, just go get on SNAP benefits. SNAP benefits, by the way, are being cut by $80 to $90 for the average person, I think by the end of February. And some families are going to lose up to $250 a month in SNAP benefits. But we aren't taking care of Americans. Our own retirement security for elderly Americans is going to be collapsing, and we're going to be paying the pensions of Ukrainians. It seems absolutely insane. We're going to skip that. There was an interesting girl named Melody Wright on Twitter who was kind of going through migration patterns and home builder stuff. Check her out. Name is Melody Wright, but I'm not going to go too deep into that. Thought this was funny. So there was a realtor posting on Reddit that his Airbnb is failing. He can't make enough money doing Airbnb to cover his nut, and so certainly renting the home out traditionally won't cover his nut as well. I believe the house is in West Palm Beach, and I think he had posted the Zillow listing to the home he's trying to sell. In the Zillow listing, he's advertising that it would make a great Airbnb property at the same time that he's posting on Reddit that he can't make money doing it on Airbnb. It was actually kind of a cool looking home, but I think he's asking about $550,000 for it. If you guys want to check it out, it's 912 34th Street, West Palm Beach, Florida. So check that one out. It actually is a really, really cool property, but I think it's overpriced. CBS had an article the other day. Now that the pandemic aid has vanished, bankruptcies are on the rise. Total bankruptcy filings in January shot up 19% to 31,087, up 19% from a year earlier. Let's see. Starbucks vanilla drinks are being recalled because they may contain glass. China is considering providing lethal support to Russia against Ukraine. We had another article, I forget where this one came from, but high-income earners are moving back into their childhood bedrooms and putting off vacations as inflation drags on. Many of them say the goal of owning a home is a milestone worth the sacrifice, so people are moving back in with their parents to be able to save money to buy a home. We have 64% of consumers saying that they're just barely getting by, which is an increase from 61% last year, so last year wasn't a great year either. 86% of people earning six figures say they're still living paycheck to paycheck. That's kind of crazy, and that's up 64% from a year earlier. People are saying since last year, their weekly groceries have climbed from about $180 a week to over $300 a week. I think we talked about this one last week, but Facebook has already laid off 11,000 employees. They recently gave 7,000 employees poor performance reviews, so a lot of people are suspecting that Facebook is getting ready for another round of layoffs, likely in the thousands. Zero Hedge had an article called Real Dick Move. Apple allegedly fired contractors as the tech layoff wave worsens. Now, contractors usually have contracts of 6 months, 12 months, maybe 15 months on the long end. Instead of waiting for these contracts to end or expire, Apple is just outright firing these people. I'm actually kind of surprised that their contract doesn't guarantee them their job through the contract. But one contractor claimed to have been blindsided, saying Apple management had assured him that all jobs were safe only a few weeks earlier. Some had been gloating that Apple hadn't overhired like other tech companies, the source added. Apple doesn't have to pay severance or unemployment for contract workers. So do you think people are going to want to go work as contract workers for Apple when think you're locking yourself into a contract and they can just decide to fire you? I thought this was kind of crazy. Ronald Dahl books are being rewritten by the publisher to be more quote-unquote sensitive. Words like fat and ugly have been removed so that people aren't offended, and according to the publisher, quote-unquote, so that all can continue to enjoy them today. I think we talked about this last week. Chick-fil-A is rolling out a cauliflower plant-based sandwich. I'd be curious to try it out. I remember when that Impossible Whopper came out, I went out and tried it out. I've never had it since. I think Chick-fil-A will maybe see like an uptick in interest. Maybe some people run out and want to try this new sandwich. But in a down economy, when inflation is out of control, when eating out at restaurants is costing more and more, do you think people are going to want to eat a fake chicken cauliflower sandwich that's going to cost more than an actual chicken sandwich? I'm guessing probably not. I had a couple stories here, but I was going to skip those. You know what? We're just going to wrap this video up here. So that's today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below and ring the bell. And as always, I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and opinions on anything and everything we've discussed today. So go ahead and drop a comment in the comment section below. Again, guys, thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next video. Guys, later. Peace.